Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio. And now, here's our host, Dr. Vanessa Anceloni.
Welcome, dear listener, to Kardec Radio. This morning, we are here to talk about previous lives. Yes, previous lives and how much they affect this life. How much can that be? It can be a great deal. Actually, we're today the byproduct of what we constructed in many lives, and we're going to have the help of many of our friends at Kardec Radio, including Kirsten DeMello, Dr. Marco Magalhães, Bernadette Leal, Naur Fonseca, and many more, and also our guest interview with Tom Kratzley. Tom Kratzley has become a great collaborator of the Spiritist movement in the United States. He is a spiritualist director at Lilydale. He has worked in the fields of counseling, spiritual healing, teachings for more than 30 years, and actually developed the restructuring method of assessing, releasing, and transforming unconscious resistance patterns from previous lives. He is an ordained minister with Fellowships of the Spirit, and for the past 10 years, he has served as an associate director of their School of Healing and Prophecy. While at Harvard Divinity School, Tom was inspired to direct his attention to matters of the human heart and the possibilities of growth and transformation through development of the spiritual dimensions of the heart. Since then, he has created numerous classes and workshops to support others in exploring the vast dimensions and extraordinary healing potentials of the heart. He lives with his wife Ellie and his daughter Tara in the spiritualist community of Lilydale, New York, where they operate Harmony House, a year-round guest house. And guess what? Yesterday, Lilydale has opened their summer season. We think you should be there. We have been there. Divaldo Franco has been there. Many of our Spiritist friends. And we enjoy Lilydale very much because they really cherish the values that we do in Spiritism as well. It's a great community. It's a true hidden treasure in the United States of America and around the world. And you know, dear listener, we want to share with you, Kardec Radio is going to turn 1 year old this coming July 4th at 12 p.m. And we're going to dedicate 3-hour show on Wednesday, July 4th at 12 p.m. We're going to have guests with us, and we're going to dedicate to what? To sharing with you the reason why we call ourselves here Kardec Radio. It's all about Allan Kardec and the impact of his legacy. Who was Kardec? How did he die? Not only that, who was his wife? How was their relationship? What were the premonitions before he died? And was it possible that before he reincarnated, he was the mentor of somebody very important to the history of humankind? Who was he also in previous lives? We're going to get to know more about Kardec so you know more about these very empowering educator that still lives in the beyond and with us. And by the way, the campaign I Honor My Parents is up and running, and we're going to dedicate the first weekend of July to get to know more about parenting and educators. And we are going to bring phenomenal shows in the second year of Kardec Radio. We hope you enjoy and you share the good news. And very soon we're going to open the line for our dear Tom Kratzley, whom we're honored to have here in the show today, and would like to share with you that in the topic of memories of previous lives, did you know that in the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec, question 397, Kardec asked whether or not when we evolve, we actually get more feedback from previous lives if we remember more easily. And the answer to question 397 in the Spirit's book was yes, the body becomes less material. They become easier to remember. The memory of the past is clearer for those who inhabit worlds of a higher order. You know, dear listener, it's very uplifting because many people sometimes they're afraid of getting to know more. But you know, you only know more when you're ready to know more, because sometimes people, if they knew that much more, they wouldn't be forgiving, because it's very difficult for people to deal with people's imperfections. We demand so much perfection from others, and we forget we need to perfect ourselves. And this is pretty much what we're going to talk about. Tom Cratchit wrote a chapter in the recently launched The Hidden Power of Your Past Lives by the best-selling author Sandra Ann Taylor. And he wrote a chapter talking about restructuring and reconstructing joy in our lives. How is that? Is it possible? Is it about regression therapy we're going to talk about? Not quite. It's beyond that. And to know more about it, we are going to bring to you Tom Cratchit. Before we do that, how about if we kickstart the program today? As we are honored to have here in Kardec Radio Studio, Sarah Grace Insinga de Mello. She's here with us. Kirsten de Mello's daughter is here with us, enjoying a time at Kardec Radio Studios, as she helped us, especially today, put together a beautiful vignette about the Gospel according to Spiritism for children and youth. And now we're going to listen to this beautiful message by Joana de Angelis, Let Yourself Not Be Deterred, in the book Living and Loving.
Let not yourself be deterred.
Slander affected you because you paid attention to it. Calumny harmed you because you gave importance to it. Discord has upset your ideals because you paused to consider it. Hatred has embittered you because of your hurt pride and inflated self-esteem. Dispute hampered your work because you let yourself be entangled in it. Doubt nestled in your mind because you kept yourself in aimless idleness. Accusers live within a low vibrational level. To give them too much attention in order to attract their sympathy is a waste of time. You expected a general approval but did not care to consult with God. If you are striving to do good and others accuse you, if you are generous but people call you a spendthrift, if you are humble and people say you are stupid, if you have self-discipline and people judge you strict, if you meet your duties and others curse you, if you bow in prayer and try to act according to the gospel and people despise you, do not consider their opinions, because that is not what the Almighty Father thinks of you. Do not let other people's opinions deter you. Do not allow yourself to be either afflicted or conflicted by the contradictory opinions of others. Accept only the inspiring suggestions that stimulate your spiritual progress. You will always meet with those who are productive and those who complain, accuse, criticize, and harass. Such people come and go and are soon forgotten, but the work done by those who dedicate themselves to do good will last forever.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Kardec Radio, live, every Saturday at 11 a.m.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
The International Spiritist Council is organizing and promoting the 7th World Spiritist Congress, which will be held in Havana, Cuba on March 23rd through the 25th of 2013. The Congress theme will be Charity and Spiritual Education in Building a World of Peace. 150 years of the Gospel according to Spiritism. For more information, please visit www.7cem.org.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
Hi, this is Nara Vendidi with Succeed in America by Packaging Your Brilliance. helping foreign-born and immigrant professionals succeed in the workplace. Our topic today, enunciating for accent reduction. What is enunciating? It's pronouncing words very distinctly. When you pronounce a word, concentrate on pronouncing each sound clearly. So, in other words, enunciate. When speaking English, be sure to clearly pronounce the final p, b, t, and d sounds in words. Be careful not to drop the endings of words, especially t and d sounds. For instance, chat, not chat, could, not co, scope, not scope, tube, not tube. This leads me to another important point, grammar sounds. If you mispronounce or drop word endings, your speech will sound unclear. It will sound uneducated, unprofessional, and your listener will be distracted by mistakes you make. Foreign speakers of English are often unaware or take lightly the importance of basic English grammar pronunciation and mispronounce and drop word endings primarily in the following cases. Number 1. Regular past tense verbs such as used, started, changed. Third person singular present such as speaks, walks, talks. Regular plural count nouns such as friends, cars, sisters. And possessive nouns such as Mikes, Ricks, Isabellas. However, in order to sound credible and educated, you need to show that you know grammar well. Let me explain this further. Many non-native speakers do know grammar well, but when it comes down to pronouncing the words correctly, that's when they fail. So remember, noun and verb endings change the meaning of a sentence. Make sure you pronounce grammar sounds to improve the clearness and professionalism of your speech. And this is Nara Venditti with Succeed in America by Packaging Your Brilliance, helping immigrant and foreign-born professionals succeed in the American workplace. If you have any questions, please email me at nara@succeedinamerica.com. That is NARA@SUCCEED in America.com. And thank you for listening.
Nourish Your Soul with Kardec Radio.
Jesus' teachings brings joy to all, including to other children and teens. Now available in English, The Gospel According to Spiritism for Young Adults. Enjoy the universal moral code and create a happy life for you, my friend, no matter your age. It's never too soon to embrace it. Buy your copy today at www.sgny.org.
And now we return to our program.
Dear listener, happy times come after the storm. That's a sure thing. And we're here to talk about how traumas can be healed, how emotional content can be released. Is that possible? Allan Kardec talked about the higher planes, higher planets than us, with true opportunities for people to remember previous lives. This is the answer to question 397. The more we evolve, the more we're going to be able to deal with the contents of previous lives and face it, heal it, release it, and build a new life. And to know more about how this can happen, we are honored to have here with us our long-standing collaborator in Spiritism, our dear minister, spiritualist, and healer, Tom Kratzley. He's here with us directly from Lilydale. By the way, they just opened their summer season. And we think you should consider going to the website and getting to know more about their beautiful program and how much they can offer for all of us and to all of us. So Tom Cressley is here with us. Thank you, Tom, for being with us at Cardiac Radio.
And nice to be with you, Vanessa.
Again, because I remember a year ago when we launched Cardiac Radio, you were here with us talking about spiritualism and spiritism, the much that we have in common and should collaborate. So we're so honored to have you here again, Tom, especially when we are considering such an important topic in our lives. You're talking about reconstruction and of joy by restructuring our previous lives, which is a chapter in the book, The Hidden Power of Your Past Lives by Sandra Ann Taylor. So, Tom, how did you get interested in the topic of previous lives content, and how did you actually come to building this method that you named restructuring?
Well, I have to admit that it was only a curiosity to me until the early 1980s, when I was really searching for ways to help people deal with patterns and habits that seemed to be so stubborn that they couldn't get rid of, including myself, by the way. And I happened to chance upon a seminar and a workshop that was held by a chiropractor and his wife, and they called it a releasing workshop. And what they did was they were very psychic, and they would look at people in attendance, and someone would raise their hands saying, I'm having a problem, let's say, with my right shoulder. And they would look at them and say, release hate for your mother in ancient Afghanistan.
Oh, wow.
And the person would say this, and all of a sudden you'd feel a difference. Now, what I noticed over the course of the weekend, I had several things that they gave me suggestions, and I made the releases. And sometimes I could always feel an immediate shift, an immediate change, but sometimes it would just come back later. And then on another occasion, they asked me to let go of something that I was fully aware of. Now, this wasn't past life. This was in this lifetime. They asked me to let go of something in relationship to my father. And it was something that I had actually just created out of in my own head, but it wasn't anything to do with my father's behavior rather than my interpretation of it. And as when I addressed it, it was clear and full and complete because I was consciously aware of what they were suggesting. And what I found was that if I could take people directly to the source of their conflict when they came to me, it would, and I had them make the appropriate releases, make the changes in their perception, then they could be free of whatever conflict they came with. And what I found was people would spontaneously go into past lives.
But so you're saying that that's probably why so many people, for example, even in Spiritism, we get to know of all these beautiful teachings, the proposal. People think, yes, I'm going to shift this and the other, but they don't succeed. So it's not like simple reasoning. There is a deeper work that needs to be done.
Absolutely, and why that is, and it's an interesting problem and dilemma, is that when we create a dysfunctional, I use it. I don't really like the pop psychology term, but anyway, when we have a dysfunctional habit that is stubborn and we can't get rid of, one of the reasons we can't get rid of it is we're unconscious of why it is that we created it in the first place. And the reason we're unconscious is when we created the pattern that doesn't work, is we did it under traumatic, stressful conditions, and we were convinced that there was nothing we could do about it. And with that conviction, we decided, I don't want to keep looking at this again, this terrible traumatic experience. with the thought that I can't do anything about it. So you pull the shade down. Say, I don't want to look at this again. Well, that's fine. You don't have to look at it again. Consciousness is totally obedient to us. And so you don't get to look at it, but you have to live the consequences of the decisions you made about the trauma.
Mm.
Okay? So that's what causes the loop to keep repeating itself without you knowing why. And what happens is that when we get to the point where we're so frustrated with what we've created that we're willing to try anything, you can pop the shade and see the truth behind it.
Mm. And you know, Tom, as you're saying this, it reminds me of, because at the beginning of the chapter you talk about this, the fact that, quoting from the very first paragraph, you say, if we do indeed create our reality through our thoughts, then we ought to be able to uncreate our mental habits, even those in the unconscious mind. But
as long as we know how we did it, yes.
Exactly. So, for example, let's give an example. Two. One about something I heard while I used to live in Brazil. A man used to say to his wife, "Oh, maybe I should have a cancer so people would stop doing this to me." So in this life, as far as I know, this person didn't develop any cancer, but the message is sent out there. And probably in this life, nothing is going to happen, but it's a message that's traveling in the ether of the universe. And is it likely that he's creating that reality for him also in the future life?
It's very likely. What happens is, my feeling is that the whole thing of karma has to do with the, let's call it the momentum of consciousness. So whatever you're thinking at any particular moment, and that includes the complete spectrum of your thought, is being projected out into the universe. And so you are drawing that to you. So as soon as you change that spectrum of thought, then you are no longer attracting the same thing. So the creation is happening every moment, but we have tendencies to be fixated on our view of reality. And as long as the fixation is there, we are attracting it to us. And as soon as the fixation shifts, we attract something completely different.
It makes sense, because the spirit doctor André Luiz, he says there is a law of the mental field, which is you only attract what you've emitted. And this is like not only for one life, but for our immortality. And sometimes we are creating something today that we'll reap probably in a few reincarnations from now. You never know, right? Like, for example, you talk about...
I actually feel it's somewhat different from that, and that it's you can put out a thought today, and it's actually manifesting right now, whatever. But it's not just manifesting that thought. It's, our consciousness is an amalgam of thinking, and we are very compartmentalized in our thought processes as human beings, because the intellectual mind is very different from the spiritual mind. And the intellectual mind says, well, in this area I believe this and this, and by area I mean when it comes to relating to women, I believe this. When it comes to relating to men, I believe this. When it comes to relating to work, I believe this. When it comes to relating to children or play or my creativity or any of these aspects of our lives, I believe this, this, and this. And so that's the pea-brain mind, as I call it, the intellectual mind, as opposed to the spiritual mind. So we have all this, and this is what we're projecting into our reality at any one moment. And as soon as any of those boxes that we have put ourselves in, if we identify them and change them, we're instantly creating a new reality, now and forevermore, as a matter of fact. So, yes, if we die before we've had a chance to change any of that, then that is being projected into the future. Okay, and so that in that way of speaking, so that's how the past then is relived in future lives, because we didn't change it. But whenever the change happens, it's done. You don't create anything more from the old pattern.
Okay. So you're talking about the fact that first we need to identify. So talking about one of the parts of your chapter, which is very practical and very straightforward, it talks about trauma. So first we need to recognize that there is a trauma, because many people sometimes when you talk about, for example, restructuring previous lives content, they're like, oh, but I'm good. I think, I have no problem at all. And they don't even recognize that they are experiencing some form of a traumatic event. So how can we help them identify that need?
Well, actually, people, I wouldn't work with anyone that didn't realize that something was out of balance, because then there is there's no impetus to discover the truth. If a person thinks that they've got things all together, then there's no impetus to move forward. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, it makes
now,
sense.
if a person is aware that something is off balance, that is grist for the mill. Then you use that as the platform for doing a regression back to its source.
Okay.
So it's their consciousness that makes the difference. So when somebody comes to me, for instance, for help and support, I want to know what it is they're struggling with that they want some resolution for. And so when I get, and often it's about their current life. I mean, it's like it isn't working in a way that they would like it to work. They're having trouble with their boss, they're having trouble with their spouse, they're having trouble with money, whatever it is, and it seems to have been a pattern. It's a perpetual thing. So we use that as the emotional context to go into where it came from. Go ahead.
Because, so once the person identified there's a problem, how do you go from there to the other part that you also mentioned in the book, the art of letting go? Because some people, they identify, yes, I have this problem, I have this limitation, I have this difficulty, I have this discomfort, but sometimes they really don't want to let go of that pain because it becomes like it has a role in itself. So why is letting go an art?
Well, it's a mistake. It's whatever it is that causes them to hold on it's a mistake, because it's promoted by fear. The reason people keep doing something the way they do it is they're afraid of worse consequences by not doing it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
They're afraid that if they do something, it will make it worse. And sometimes that's unconscious stuff. Most of the time, as a matter of fact, that part is unconscious. So they really are doing bad behavior, bad thinking out of fear most of the time. And so what I do is I try to when I'm working with people, I try to just talk to them about the depth of that fear and to bring it out to it even stronger, so that they recognize how frustrating it is to live in that condition, and how they would prefer not to live in that condition. So there is this, and that's part of the art of letting go, is recognizing that there's this tension that people are, when they're dealing with unwanted stuff, that they're constantly living with that. And so if they own up to that, then they're ready to say, okay, fine, I really do not want to live this way. Then it gives them room to go after the truth. And that's the platform I do for the regression. So I build up that tension in our conversation, and then I use that as a way of getting back at the source. Now, another piece of this has to do with physiology, because all of our mental and emotional discomfort manifests physiologically. It manifests in muscular tension. Sometimes it'll manifest in organs not working properly. People happen to take medication for one thing and another. A lot of that comes from, almost all of it comes from, internal tension, internal conflict. And so part of how I help people get to the source of things is I have them recognize that as they're thinking about what it is they're struggling with, that there's parts of their body that are also uncomfortable. And when they recognize where that discomfort is in the body, I have them imagine that that's actually getting more uncomfortable, and that the discomfort, the emotional discomfort, is getting worse. And I have them follow that back to its source, and it pops them into a memory.
Oh, I see. And you also talk about, in that very part, you talk about the fact that physical pain can be a side effect of internal contradiction. So you talk about the fact that. So how is that?
Well, what it is, no one actually consciously desires pain, and when we often say, people think, well, if how come my positive thinking doesn't get rid of pain? You hear this all the time. Well, it's like, I don't want pain, so I'm thinking I'm healthy, right?
Yeah.
Well, because the reason you have pain isn't because you told yourself you're going to have pain. It's because there's a contradiction that your body is manifesting for you. All right, and until you face the contradiction and come to a resolution about it, your body will continue to manifest it. Pain and disease of all sorts. And that's the magical, wonderful thing about being human is once we come to this, and I think more and more in our world today, and the new healing modalities that are coming on board, people are realizing that they can get to the bottom of things and change fundamentally the way they are with their body and the way their body manifests health rather than disease.
Oh, I understand. It makes sense to me. So you also talk about the case of Carol to explain. She had like a lifelong pain in her lower back. That's right. And she and when she came to me, I did the regression to her, and she went back to a past life where she was wounded. I believe it was a spear or something. I do so many of these, and it's hard to remember the specifics of all of the of all of the injuries, because people have like tons of injuries when they go back to past traumas, right? Mm-hmm, exactly.
But in this particular case, there was an injury that affected her back. And what I did with her was I had her look at the entire context of that past life and let go of all of the areas there that she was holding on to, anger, fear, decisions that she made about people, about herself, based upon what happened in that traumatic experience. Because in those traumas, there is such an intensity of emotion that it almost burns into a person's soul memory, an expectation of those things happening again and again. And once that expectation can be removed, then the soul can operate more freely with the psyche, and the psyche itself can operate more freely without fear. And that's the key. So we take the fear out of the situation, and the intense emotion, as well as the logic that was constructed around the intense event. And so once those things are removed, then the person no longer feels bound and compelled to live as if this thing were going to be happening again.
Yes, it's very interesting. Tom, it's quite interesting also because you have a CD. We want to talk more after the break, so we're going to give a short break, and when we come back, we want to know more about the steps into this therapy. All right?
Sure.
All right, so we'll go to a break now, and we'll be right back with Tom Kretzley.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Kardec Radio, live, every Saturday at 11 a.m.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
A new great book and tool for kids and educators. The children's book, Our Father by the Spirit Mei Mei, psychographed by Chico Xavier, is available for purchase at www.edisayofamerica.com. Buy your copy today.
Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
The newest edition of the Medium's book by Allan Kardec is now available. Purchase your copy online or via your ebook reader. Simply go to www.edicofamerica.com today.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
Join us every Thursday live. Evolution in Two Worlds. A journey of the soul through the teachings of the Spirit Doctor, Andrea Luiz. Connect at www.tvcei.com, Channel 2.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
Spiritism for Everyone, the online study of the Spirit's Book and the Gospel according to Spiritism. Spiritism for Everyone meets every Wednesday evening and Saturday morning using the latest technology in web conferencing. You can join in from any computer in the comfort of your home or office, no matter where you are in the U.S. or the world. Spiritism for Everyone is open, free, and requires no registration. To access the web live meetings, go to www.spiritus.us. Spiritism for Everyone is a program of the United States Spiritist Council.
And now we return to our program.
Deconstructing Misery, Reconstructing Joy. It's the chapter by Tom Cratchit in the book by Sandra Ann Taylor, The Hidden Power of Our Past Lives. It's a book that also includes a CD and was published by the renowned Hay House. And Tom Cratchit is honoring us today with his presence at Kardec Radio. Tom, you were talking about the art of letting go and everything else. But when you talk about deconstructing misery, it's not a simple step because, as you mentioned, sometimes people promise like fast therapy, like fast food. It's not good for your body. And as you're telling us, fast-paced therapy does not also exist. Is that right?
Well, I actually do think it can be fairly quick, but it has to be done with clear intent because it only takes me about an hour. For instance, Carol. We'll go back and use her as the example. That session took about an hour, and she has no longer. This is like 7 years later. She doesn't have pain. She hasn't had it since. And so when you get at the actual core and root of something, it's done. Mm-hmm. And let me explain a little further. Mm-hmm. When a trauma happens to somebody, it happens in an instant. It happens in a very brief amount of time, and that gets singed and seared into one's consciousness. If you address it at the same level at which it was created, you can uncreate it in that energy. It doesn't have to be a long process, just as the trauma itself was not a long process.
Yes, it makes sense to us, and it's divine providence for sure. It brings a lot of hope to us. Just so people understand, because you talk about the power of presence and in this dissolving of old traumas. So just so people can picture what it is, because many people, they don't expose themselves to this therapeutic process because they have no idea about the steps. What are the steps in a therapeutic session that you would go through? Because you're talking about reframing your interpretation of life events.
The most important thing is to be thoroughly with your pain. And it will speak itself to you. The understanding of it will unfold, and it can happen in many ways. My process is only one of many processes. The universe is a much greater place than to have only one process for healing, right?
Exactly.
And so it can happen for anyone at any time. But I think the principal thing that's necessary for it to happen is being fully present with your pain. And so the tricky part about that is we often are trying to dance around our pain. We're so uncomfortable with it, we don't want to be with it. We try to anesthetize it in whatever way we can, whether that's through eating or not being around it, or to ignoring it, and so on and so forth. As frustrating as it can, and it's going to still stay with you until you do something about it. But we tend not to be fully present with it. But once you're fully present with it, you then have access to do something about it. And it's at that point, and how you know that is when you're feeling it, when you're really feeling it and you're identifying it. Let's say you can feel a certain emotional discomfort in you. If you honestly say, I feel this anger at so-and-so, and take a breath and say, I'm willing to let go of this. Take a breath and let it go. You'll feel a shift. Something will change. That's how you know you're fully present, because your consciousness is obeying you.
It's interesting because in an answer to Kardec's question, the illuminated spirits, in 398 of the Spirits book, they say it goes so much in alignment with what you're saying, because they say you need to study, like people need to study themselves in the present to be able to discern what they went through in the past. So they really talk about this power of presence, as you're saying. You really need to dive deeply into yourself. It's like the inner journey that Joanna De Angelis says through Divaldo Franco. So as you're mentioning this, Tom, what comes to our mind now is you're really asking people as if our mind is a hard drive and we have files there that were somewhat corrupted, or they are, bugged, and they are affecting the whole system. So you cannot simply deny or overlook. The best way to go for your system to operate well and fast and dynamically is to deal with that content. And you're talking about the proposal of restructuring is, let us face it together and rearrange it and decide to recycle it, send it to the recycling bin, or we're going to file it and say, stay there, you're good, and this is the new way of seeing ourselves in life.
Right.
Right?
But it's also about identifying the errors in the original thought. So there were errors in thinking that occurred at the point of a trauma, right? And one of the major errors is the assumption that it's going to go on forever. Okay? And so once you take it out of that box in your consciousness and put it into, this was a one-time event, not something that's going to happen all the time, right? So that's a major shift in how you relate to it. And then all the specifics of what you decided about the event are also valuable too. So let's say there are particular individuals involved in the trauma that you experienced. So your relationship with those individuals should be restructured in such a way that you're at peace with them. Now, in the core event, that you can be at peace with what happened. And once that happens, then it also changes any future sort of conflict and difficulties that you have with that person. By future, I mean in this life. Let's say the same person is present with you in this life. If you change the way in which you experience the traumatic event or series of traumatic events in prior lives, then the way in which you're going to relate to them in this life and the way in which they're going to relate to you in this life is also going to be transformed. Yeah, and because it's all about expectation and unconscious expectation. That's the power. And you were very clear in describing the importance of that presence thing, of recognizing and being personally responsible for your feeling state in the here and now, for what your body's going through in the here and now. And as you're much more conscious and aware of that, it enables you to get to the root of it, wherever that is.
Mm. And you're talking, for example, when you talk about the case of Ken had a lifelong fear of intimacy, and through this restructuring method, he found out he had a problem in ancient China, and he was seriously wounded in a battle, and the whole story behind it. And then you proposed, as the therapist in the process, that he worked on it through affirmations throughout the session. Like, for example, I release the feelings of guilt, I still carry over not being able to save my wife in that life, etc. I ask her forgiveness, etc. Can you tell us more, just so people picture how it's, because sometimes they are afraid of this session because they don't know what they're going to encounter, right?
Right. Human beings have, over the history of our place in this world, have experienced many absolutely horrible traumatic experiences. And these horrible traumatic experiences, it's not that, some of them we have, we all have some personal responsibility with respect to them, and that's a big part of this. Owning one's personal responsibility with respect to what happens, even if it's over-identification with particular individuals, over-identifying with loving certain individuals. In this particular case, this is a horrible trauma. He witnessed his entire community murdered and not being able to do anything about it. It's a battle situation. And so everything that had any meaning to him in life was gone. And he was crippled and went through that life, in that, and eventually was arrested as a vagrant and murdered and killed, by the authorities for it. So that's for anybody, that's just not a very pleasant thing to think about. But when you go back and look at that and recognize, and when he was able to recognize and able to establish, interestingly, part of what happened in this one, I'm glad you raised this one, was, and this is in the book, but in this session, one of the things that happened was I reunited him with his spiritual family.
Aww.
Okay? And so he was reunited with his spiritual family that he thought he was lost forever from. Okay? So he concluded that he was all alone in the universe, and all that he loved would never be available to him. That's not a very healthy conclusion. And so I had him let go of those things, and when he did, it made him open to once again reestablish a relationship on the spiritual level with those loved ones who died in that life, and also experienced their forgiveness, because they did not hold him responsible, yet he held himself responsible. Okay.
So,
go ahead.
So Tom, as you're saying this, what comes to my mind is, do you think when people their main problem is the belief system? I'm not talking about religiousness per se.
It's not religious, no. Yeah.
No, it's about the core of their values and beliefs. Some people say, but Vanessa, I truly feel I am not in deserve of being happy. So then your life is going to go around it. Because you don't feel it. Is that what you're saying? Because you're talking about reframing your core belief system.
Right, and you see now, looking just from that particular perspective, this man had that same depth of self-loathing and self-hate, only because he couldn't save everything that he loved, and so he carried that forever. And so until he addressed this, he had no hope of ever really having full happiness.
Mm.
And so now, he's, he not only two things happened as a result of that session with him. He actually changed the way he walked. He had a bit of a limp that he noticed, and it was gone.
It makes
and then,
sense.
yeah, and he also felt like his heart was open to re-engage with others.
So he didn't feel lonely anymore.
Yeah, not in the same way. No. Yeah.
So it's interesting you're saying this because, for example, if we go to the masters of humanity, including Jesus, but masters of masters throughout the different civilizations, we observe that their core belief and understanding of life and themselves and God as a creator really was the powerhouse of their accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
And the same applies to us. As you're saying, we need to revisit what the program, right? You're talking about the programming of your mind, because that's defining what you're doing with the past lives experiences and what you're doing today.
Yeah, and all you have to do is look at, what am I at peace with? What am I comfortable with? What am I not at peace with? What am I not comfortable with? And if you look at the things you're not comfortable with, that's where your programming has gone awry.
So I see in your technique you mostly use also the techniques of affirmations, right?
Mm-hmm. Only what it's very important though that these affirmations are said and done. I think of them not so much as affirmations as decisions. And they're a little bit different because they're done in the midst of an energy, and what's interesting is when you do them in the midst of the energy, it changes the energy.
Because
so
you're talking about declarations, as you say.
Exactly,
right?
It's not wishful thinking. They're actually changing the way in which their mind is structured.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it can only be done in the presence of what you're addressing in the mind. Okay.
Yeah, and that's why in the book, you and Sandra and also Sharon Klinger have a CD that accompanies the book, so people can go through this process of the releasing, also the accommodating of the new declaration. So
yes,
right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so like for
helpful.
example, I ask forgiveness because of course people sometimes they think once they forgive something they're never going to be in need of forgiving again, and it's like cleaning of a house. I remember Carlos telling me the other day, if you clean today, think about it, you're gonna get it dirty sometime in the very near future. You have to clean it again. I mean, it's about to clean, right? It makes sense.
Yes. It's important to recognize that things. We live in a very dynamic world, and things. You may be peaceful with things today, and you may find that something comes along that you're having some serious difficulty in meeting the challenge, and it may not just be what lies before you, but it may be something deeper than that.
It's like layers of an onion.
Yeah.
Because you know why I'm saying this? Because, Tom, one of the greatest difficulties we face is with people who don't know about the dynamics of human mind. They come to us, for example, the Spirit Side of Baltimore, Spirit Side of Virginia, or any, therapeutic office. They come and say, I thought my life was so well, and I worked so hard to deal with these issues in my life, and out of the blue, suddenly, new things pop up. It's like, and they conclude, I am not to be happy. I'm not supposed to be happy at all because life never ends challenging me. So what is wrong in their framing and the framing of their life?
Well,
what is wrong there?
One of the things is that that we need to embrace fundamentally the multifarious experiences of life Life brings us a lot of different experiences, some of which are difficult to understand at first, some of which may cause us to recognize underlying problems in our thinking, which can actually bring us greater happiness and joy once we deal with them. I find myself, like I have gone through many of my past lives, not because I was hunting and searching for all my past lives, because I'm not particularly interested in filling my conscious mind with all that stuff. Because it's not important. It's not important to my conscious mind, only insofar as they tell me something about what I'm doing, or what I'm doing wrong, or what I'm doing right. Sometimes we can have past life visions that actually will support us in doing what we're doing. If we, let's say, had a past life where you mastered a particular skill, and that skill can come in handy in this life, then sometimes that stuff bleeds through, and you'll, oh, well, thank you very much. We're happy for that. And by the same token, if you have past life trauma that inhibits you in this life, it's important for you to be aware of it, and so that you're no longer inhibited by it. Once you come to the awareness of what you did and let go of those thoughts and feelings and conclusions, you're free of it.
I understand. It makes so much sense. Tom, we have to go to a 2-minute break. When we come back, we want to ask you more about, for example, possible risks, possible side effects not done correctly, the restructuring therapy, and recommendations that you may have, all right?
Okay.
All right, so we'll go to a break now. When we come back, there's so much more to learn with Tom Kretzley.
All right.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Enjoy this new release. Reborn for Love, by the renowned Brazilian scientist and researcher on reincarnation, Dr. Hernani Andrade. This novel describes one of the most extraordinary and genuine cases of reincarnation ever studied by Dr. Andrade's Brazilian Institute of Psychobiophysics Research in Sao Paulo State. Order your copy now at roundtable.uk@gmail.com or at www.roundtablepublishing-uk.com.
Spiritist Network, your gateway to on-demand Spiritist videos. www.spiritistnetwork.com.
Spread the word. Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
Want to find a good way to explain life after physical death to kids or teenagers? Check out the book Message from a Teen in the Spirit World by the Spirit Neo Lucio and psychographed by Chico Xavier. In this book, a teenager named Carlos explains his impressions on the new life in the spirit realm with his discarnate relatives and new friends. Purchase your copy online at www.ssbaltimore.org.
The Spiritist Magazine is a trimestral, digital periodical that publishes the latest news on the Spiritist thought and the movement in the USA and worldwide. Subscribe now at www.spiritistmagazine.com.
In the book, A Primer on Being Good by the Spirit May, psychographed by the medium Chico Xavier, explains in simple language appropriate for children two paths in life, the path of good or the path of evil. God has granted us the freedom to choose either one. Purchase your copy online at www.ssbaltimore.org.
Now we return to our program.
You know, dear listener, we are learning so much here with Tom. He is this great heart, great friend of us, and we're honored to have him also today because he's sharing with us a method of assessing, releasing, and transforming unconscious resistance patterns that were created either in this life earlier on or in previous lives. And he has been sharing with us, especially some of the contents that he published in a chapter in the book, The Hidden Power of Your Previous Lives or Your Past Lives by Sandra and Taylor, and it's about deconstructing misery to reconstruct with joy. Tom, you were talking about how safe the method is, because as you mentioned, we're not supposed to go there and curiously just assessing previous lives. There must be a therapeutic need, but are there any risks of people working in this method that you created? What are the possible precautions?
Quite honestly, I think that any risks are fictitious. I've heard people talk about things. When you, it's hard not to be. It's better to be conscious than unconscious. Let me put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what. So maybe you uncover a past life trauma. You don't have it. It's not completely dealt with. Life is like that. Sometimes things aren't completely dealt with for reasons. Your soul knows. One of the things that I trust with this particular process is I trust the soul of the person I'm working with. And I trust that soul is only going to reveal that which they're capable of handling at the moment. And I believe that the soul does that for us. So it's what you're capable of handling at the moment that you get to see, and you get to work with, and you get to make decisions about. Now, are there some things to be aware of? Yes. One of the things I tell people is that sometimes following doing a major restructuring, if you go back to a significant major trauma and you change a very significant pattern, you may find that in the weeks following that some of the old thoughts and feelings of that pattern come up and are at times even stronger than they were before. But that's an illusion. It's because by going back and seeing it, what you've done is you've taken off the anesthetic. Because basically we try to hide this stuff. And when you stop trying to hide it, it's there in spades. But what a person is experiencing in that brief period is the stuff coming up and out and being released from the body. At the same time they experience that, they also experience their resources in handling it. They feel stronger, even though they feel some of the deeper emotional energy of the old trauma. They also feel stronger. But that only is, and this isn't always, but it is a possibility that happens sometimes with people, and it goes away within a week or two. Yeah.
So to sum up from where we begun it's all about restructuring your thinking. You also need to go there and redo. So that's why it's so safe and even recommendable. So you do these sessions not only in Lilydale, in places where you travel around in private sessions,
I
but
do
you
it
also
on the phone.
I remember we did that once years ago over the phone, and I could tell myself, how it feels. It's very safe. And it goes very hand in hand with what the spirits told to Kardec in the Spirits book. You need to study yourself to really better and improve the quality of your life. It's the answers to question 397, 398 of the Spirits book. So you're talking about promoting this inner wellness so we can lead a better life, right?
Yeah. I think that's what we're here to do. We're here to be happy and harmonious and joyous, and and learn how we're not doing that, so we can bring back the joy and bring back the happiness.
Now I'm curious.
And share it with others.
Exactly. So sharing is the best part of it. So Tom, as you are one of the few experts in the United States, and I don't know, probably around the world, regarding the amazing Andrew Jackson Davis, where did he stand in regard to the dealing of? I remember it's a little controversial. This is just my personal curiosity here. So we study here at Kardec.
I love Andrew Jackson Davis more than any philosopher I've ever read, and it's one place where I disagree with him. But here's to Davis's credit. He always said, if your experiences and your knowledge and your reason tells you something is true that I've said is not true, then you believe yours. Don't accept what I say. And so this is one area where I accept my experience, that past lives and reincarnation are real. Davis didn't accept it, didn't believe it as a part of his philosophy, but he gave me the freedom to say, okay, if my experience shows me something else, and it does, and it has thousands of times, that reincarnation is real. Now, in terms of what it means in the overall perspective of things, because it's an odd thing when we think about spiritual reality versus our reality down here, because in spiritual reality, of course, there's no time, and when there's no time, then reincarnation in that context is irrelevant. It's only relevant here.
It makes sense. It makes sense to me. And Tom, if people need to contact you, they can call you at 716-595-3551, right?
That's correct.
All right. So, Tom, we're really looking forward to you coming here to our area of Baltimore, Virginia, so we can learn more about this and continue this beautiful collaboration with you. And, actually, I just received a question here from Kirsten DeMello. She just texted us asking, what if people are untrained and, you wouldn't recommend that they go there, right? Because we should have...
I do a training. I train people in this process to be therapists. I do it every year here in just outside of Lilydale. I do it over Columbus weekend, which is, I think, the 5th, 6th, and 7th this year of October. But it's that weekend. It's the Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Columbus weekends, and I train people to work through this process. And also, I mean, even if you didn't want to train to do it, if you wanted to learn in depth what the process is about, you could come and take the class, and you would do several sessions as a part of it.
That's good to know. We thank also Kirsten for helping us. So we are here today in true gratitude to you, to sharing your time.
I just want to. I want to say something, Vanessa. I just want to say thank you to you and to all the people at Kardec Radio for the great service you've provided. I've listened to other shows. It's just a wonderful service you're providing, and I heard about the internet access, the universal internet access for free to. I think it's fabulous. The work that you're doing is great, and it's only enhancing what all of us want on this planet is peace and understanding, and it's just I'm just happy and thrilled that you're doing it, and honored that you invited me to take part. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tom. I really appreciate, in the name of all the Kardec Radio team, because you have been a great part of it, because you've been supporting us from the very beginning, and I'll never be tired to say to the whole world, we are so honored to have you as a great collaborator, heart to heart. It's beyond any labeled philosophy or religion, but it's good to have you as a great collaborator in the Spiritist movement knowing that you're always there doing great service and sharing the much you have, helped people with the new methods and everything. So I really hope we can stay in this great collaboration and soon doing much more together. Thank you so much, Tom.
All right. God bless.
All right. So, dear listener, we hope you have enjoyed, but this is actually a teaser because, we think you should also buy the Spirit's book and also The Hidden Power of Your Past Lives by Shannon Taylor with great collaboration by our dear Tom Kretzley. It's all about a new proposal to life. We don't think people should stay stuck in their limitations because, as Tom said to us, we were born to really find happiness and share it with others. And if we're not finding it, there must be a way out of this. If you have tried everything, maybe not everything, because there's so much out there. After all, one of the main core beliefs we need to put in our system, in our minds, is God created us for happiness and love and joy. As Jesus said, we are here to be joyful, courageous, and always hopeful, because the gospel is actually about the good news of the universality of the moral code of life. So, dear listener, we're going to go to a very short break. When we come back, we have more. We have more with Kirsten DeMello telling us about how we can be happy by fulfilling the laws of life, and then how to teach about reincarnation to children. Bernadette Liao is here with us to share that, and there is much, much more, including short but good, uplifting interviews with our very good friends, Naur Fonseca, Eduardo Guimarães, and many others that Leo and Kirsten put together about the family retreat in Connecticut, which happened last week. We'll be right back with you and much more.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Would you like to liberate yourself from your life struggles or to find inner balance? The Inner Journey CD has 3 beautiful visualizations that will help you bring harmony to your life. As Joanna DeAngeli tells us to, live in a way that you leave enlightening footprints in your pathway as if they were stars pointing out the pathway to happiness. To find this CD, go to the bookstore on the Spiritist Society of Baltimore webpage, www.ssbaltimore.org. That is www.ssbaltimore.org, and start your inner journey today.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
A new great book and tool for kids and educators. The children's book, Our Father by the Spirit May May, psychographed by Chico Xavier, is available for purchase at www.edisayofamerica.com. Buy your copy today.
And now we return to our program.
Dear listener, we learned a lot with Tom Kretzley, and as we said before, you can read much more in his chapter, Deconstructing Misery, Reconstructing Joy, in the book, The Hidden Power of Your Past Lives by Shannon Taylor. And you know what? We had here at the chat room, we just got to know of a question somebody had regarding if it's possible to have a character defect carried out from previous life. Oh, yes. If you go to the Spirit book by Allan Kardec, you're going to get to know that actually we are true constructions of many lives. And what happens to us today, it didn't start today. It's just something we have been carrying out for many lives. We would recommend the chapters also in the Spirit's book by Kardec, and you can access this at edisayofamerica.com or at amazon.com, barnesandnoble.com, and get the Spirit's book. There are whole chapters dedicated to the ins and outs of reincarnation, very well aligned with the proposal that Tom Cratsley brought to us. And you know, dear listener, there is much to learn, right? We also need to teach our children about it. How about if now we learn the very way we can teach reincarnation to our children? The Master in Education, Bernadette Liao, who lives in San Diego, California, and participates in the Spirit Society of San Diego, is with us to teach parents and educators on how we can talk about reincarnation and teach our children on reincarnation. Let us enjoy this and the upcoming segments of our show today.
Welcome to our Youth Education in Spiritism with Kardec Radio. I am Bernadette Liao, and I'll be spending a few minutes with you, inspiring to bring spiritual awareness and spiritist teachings to our youth, parents, and educators. Today, we will answer 3 questions on helping your child to have a better understanding about reincarnation. First question. My teenager child always says that he did not ask to be born. What should I do about that? A very helpful thing you can do for your child is to understand what he's going through at his age. Teenagers live in an emotional roller coaster due to their hormones, trying to figure out who they are, their identity, as they become more independent. They want to be in control of their lives, but lack the maturity to handle stressful situations, coming back later to their parents for guidance when they feel lost or in need of protection. Therefore, learning about your child's age development or taking some parenting classes is very helpful. You and your child will benefit greatly from that. This current teenagers generation is very different from the time when we, adults, were growing up. So, not only is it beneficial to learn about the psychological, emotional, cognitive, and social development of your child, but also to become familiar with the type of pressure and issues that he faces nowadays in order to better help him. When your child says, I do not ask to be born, it means that he is frustrated and he does not want to take responsibility for his actions, blaming you, parent, for what is going on in his life. He is trying to justify his behavior by putting the problem in someone else's hand, as if he was saying to you, it is not my fault, but yours. Most teenagers have a strong conflict inside because even though they want to be independent and show that they have grown up, they avoid embracing an important part of maturing, which is to take responsibility for their own actions. So, try not to be upset or mad when you hear your child saying that he didn't ask to be born. Often it is not personal. A positive approach of handling this situation lies in acknowledging your child's feelings by calmly saying, I understand that you feel this way because you are upset and frustrated. I see it right now, but I do think differently. Do not try to teach him the spiritual explanation why he was born in such family. He probably will not listen. This is not the right time. His spirit needs to be open to listen about the spiritual matters. So, do not engage in any discussion that may trigger an argument. And we definitely encourage you to pray. Prayer is a powerful tool that can amazingly calm people's heart and raise confidence in your parental skills. After all, God trusts your parenting potential. Second question. How can I explain to my child about his past life connections with the members of his family? Well, before you start talking about why your child was born in such family and how he asked to be born, conscious or unconsciously, why in the spiritual realm, It is important to give him the foundation, which means talk to him about reincarnation. After that, you can talk about family ties. Chapter 14 of the Gospel According to Spiritism has great teachings about this topic. One easy way to introduce the concept of reincarnation to a child or teenager is through stories. Do not initiate a conversation with the definition of reincarnation and how it works. This is not a very effective way to use with our young ones. The goal is to help your child to see the reason behind the concept of reincarnation. Help him to come to the conclusion of its purpose instead of us just telling them. Stories are wonderful tools to illustrate examples and help to achieve that goal. Start with a simple story. You may create your own, or you may find one story from a spiritist book or online text. The story may be sad, but it is important that your child relates to it and that it touches his heart. Here's an example of a story we created. Mike was a boy who had an older brother named Sam. Mike was very jealous of his brother because he wanted all his parents' attention and did not like to share his room with him. In his mind, he wished he was the only child. One day, Mike and his brother got into a big fight. Mike got very angry and pushed his older brother against the wall. Sam fell, hitting his head on the concrete floor, and had a fatal accident, dying. Mike could not believe what happened, and he felt horrible knowing that he had caused that sad accident. He cried because deep in his heart he did not want his brother to die. Mike realized he loved his older brother, even though they fought once in a while and he was mean to him. But Mike thought it was too late now. There was nothing he could do as his brother no longer was alive. In his heart, all he wanted was another chance, and he prayed to God for an opportunity to say to his brother he loved him and that he was sorry. He wished that somehow he could make it up to his older brother. Third question. How can this story help my child to understand about reincarnation? We are using here the cognitive bottom-up learning process. This story builds the foundation to support the teaching of a more elaborated topic, which is reincarnation. It helps the child to connect with the character, his problem, and empathize with him as you ask the following questions. How would you feel if you were in Mike's shoes? Would you like to have another chance? Is there a way that Mike could make it up to his brother who no longer lives in the physical world? If you have noticed, in any moment we mention the word reincarnation in the story, because we want the child first to reflect a little bit about what happened, and then slowly, through a logic sequence of questions and answers, lead the child to think about ways which would be possible for Mike to be with his brother again and make it up to him. When you feel the child is ready, introduce the solution for the problem mentioned in reincarnation and explain it in a simple way relating to the story. The word and the concept of reincarnation come up only at the end, after the child reflects upon it. Then connect it to God's love and His justice in allowing us to reincarnate. This simple and short story has wonderful lessons in which you can explore not only the topic of reincarnation, but the immortality of the soul, forgiveness, and how our poor actions and choices can have serious consequences as well. Kardec Radio listeners, let's teach our children the blessings of reincarnation. Questions 171 of the Spirit's Book by Allan Kardec explains that reincarnation is the justness of God and revelation, and that a loving parent always leaves the door of forgiveness open to straying children. Yes, we are all God's children, and therefore God does not punish us, but gives us the opportunity to correct our wrongdoing and learn from many corporeal existences. Thanks for listening to Yes, and if you have any questions, please email us to kardec@kardecradio.com.
Hello, dear Kardec Radio listeners, and welcome back to the Spiritist Moment. We are continuing with our discussion and our study on the divine or natural laws, Part 3 of the Spirit's Book, and more specifically, the part that's entitled Good and Evil. Today we want to talk about question 642. We know that the good and noble spirits say to us, and we quote, "All must do good to the limit of their abilities." And they go on to say, quote, "All will answer for all the evil that has resulted from the good that was left undone." Well, what does this mean for us? Well, we are reminded of the story that was published in Kardec's time in the Spiritist magazine of the time, a story that was entitled The Baker, which was equally and also published in English at the Spiritist magazine as well. You can find it in one of the older editions of the magazine. The story goes like this. There's a very poor woman in France at that time, had many children, many mouths to feed, goes to a bakery, but doesn't have the money to buy bread, simple bread for her children. And the very unkind baker turns to her and tells her no. Well, when the baker turns around to get something from behind the counter, the woman grabs the bread out of desperation to feed her children, and she runs away. Soon the baker realizes that the bread is gone. He calls the police, and he knows exactly who took it. Soon thereafter, the police go to the woman's house, and they arrive as she's cutting the bread to feed the hungry babes she has there at home. She asks the police to give her just a minute. She goes into her bedroom, and after some time, the police go and look for her, and they find her in the bedroom with the very knife she was using to cut the bread. She killed herself. We know that this is a very dramatic scene, dear friends, but it brings to us the point that, one, we have to do good to our limit of our abilities, and all who will answer for the evil that has resulted from the good that was left undone. So we begin to understand when Kardec gives an explanation why the baker is more guiltier than the woman who committed the suicide. Why? Because of the evil that had happened, because of the good he didn't do. He wasn't charitable enough to the woman, so an evil had occurred. She was thrown into the abyss of desperation because his lack of a charitable nature, his lack of a kind nature. Something else to really reflect about, because these are not our words, dear listeners. These are the words of the good and noble spirits. The question clearly explains to us the large responsibility we have as a humanity. Also, we go to question 643, and we understand from question 643 that there are none and no one who cannot do good. What does that mean? Anyone can do good. From the highest of society to the lowest of society, the spirits let us know that there is no one who cannot do good. And the only people who don't find opportunities to do good are those who are selfish, and that is what the spirits alert us of. And even more so, they share with us the following, something for us to truly meditate about. When we are defining charity as we know it, the spirits once again come and redefine it in a very dynamic, simple, yet very tangible way. And they say, question answer 643, doing good does not only mean being charitable. but also being as useful as possible whenever your help is needed. Wherever we may find ourselves to be, we should try to be useful. It reminds us of the story in No Solar about André Luiz when he goes to speak with Clarencio for assistance. And in No Solar, when you go to ask for assistance, they are accustomed to 2 people at a time to go and ask for assistance. In this particular day, Clarencio and another woman and André Luiz are there together in this session of assistance. And before André Luiz speaks, the woman speaks. So André Luiz listens to the woman and the story of how she comes to be in El Solar and how she doesn't really find any opportunity to help. Clarencio goes through all the long list of how many opportunities he provided for her to be useful. So, dear friends, before we find ourselves saying that we don't have any opportunities to be charitable, let us reflect what the Spirit share with us, that being charitable and doing good does not only mean being charitable, but just being useful wherever we may find ourselves to be. And these, dear friends, are the thoughts that we leave us with today, and that we know as we started out today, and the spirits tell us, all must do good to the limit of our abilities. So, dear friends, we leave you with these messages today, and we wish you many blessings.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Would you like to liberate yourself from your life struggles or to find inner balance? The Inner Journey CD has 3 beautiful visualizations that will help you bring harmony to your life. As Joanna DeAngeli tells us to, live in a way that you leave enlightening footprints in your pathway as if they were stars pointing out the pathway to happiness. To find the CD, go to the bookstore on the Spiritist Society of Baltimore webpage, www.ssbaltimore.org. That is www.ssbaltimore.org, and start your inner journey today.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
A new great book and tool for kids and educators. The children's book, Our Father by the Spirit May, psychographed by Chico Xavier, is available for purchase at www.edisayofamerica.com. Buy your copy today.
And now we return to our program.
Dear listener, today it's all about reconstructing our lives for joy. And, you know, last Sunday actually, Kirsten DeMello, Daniel Santos, Sarah, and the whole family Vieira with Leo Vieira, Isabella Vieira, they were representing not only the Spirit Side of Baltimore, but also Kardec Radio at the 9th Spiritist Family Retreat. Yes, it is. More than 250 people were present, families, and they enjoyed a day at the park with experiential lessons and lots of activities entitled No Solar Family Experience. And Leo Vieira and Kirsten DeMello, we interviewed not only the coordinators, Naur Fonseca and Eduardo Guimarães, but other participants of the event. Now we're going to leave with you a few of the interviews. And very soon, at the end of the program, we're going to broadcast the segment Spiritism in Your Life and Got It Home. And we're going to wrap up after the segment with the prayer by Kardec. Listen to this interview.
Hello, dear Kardec Radio listeners. We are here today at the 9th Family Spiritist Retreat here in Trumbull, Connecticut. And we are here today with one of the main coordinators, with Naul Fonseca. Naul, it is a pleasure, as always, for us to have you here at Kardec Radio. Share with our listeners who weren't able to be here today about today's coordination and how you came, along with other coordinators, to choose No Solar as the theme today.
So the choice of the theme for the event always begins in the previous year. And I think last year we had a lot of hands-on, and it was very structured. People had to build ideas. So we had some inspirational stories, and people then would build something similar or tell the story with their own words in a theater or something like this. we know that we have lots of people here that they like this more dynamic activities. They like the theater, and the movie No Solar had came out, and it kind of came back as a thing that was in people's minds, and it was very successful with kids. So many kids loved the film No Solar. They watched it over and over. So I have a kid from New York. He has watched the movie already like 9 times.
Wow. So
he was correcting the teacher in this class. Oh, you're not André Luiz. André Luiz looks like this. No, but let's pretend that I am André Luiz. So you hear all these kind of stories. No Solar brings to us this idea of what it is like to live as a spirit, even if you are incarnated. What is it like to live in a society where the material possessions do not tell who you are, where people are not competing so much, they're cooperating. You're not valued by your rank. You're not promoted from rank unless you really deserve it. And since you have owned it, you have the merit, you are respected because of that. So there are so many good examples in No Solar. One that keeps coming to my mind is André Luiz was, recuperating, but he was still sick. He was in the hospital. And they asked him how he was feeling one day. And then he started to just complain about his situation. Nobody in his family came to see him. He didn't have any news about his family that was still on earth. He was feeling miserable, abandoned, alone. And of course, he started feeling all this, let's call it physical, but it's in the spiritual body, pains. The mentor, who is a minister of No Solar, so he has deserved the place where he works, listened patiently, all his complaints, didn't interrupt. In the end, he just asked André Luiz, do you really want to get better? Then you need to learn not to complain. And then he gives a beautiful lesson about the importance of positive thoughts. Every change begins in the thoughts that you have. And then he asked the question again after his explanation. André Luiz, how are you feeling today? And he said, I'm a little better. So these stories from No Solar, André Luiz is so close to us that we can relate. And it brings us what is it like to live as in a society driven by love, by respect, by tolerance. So I think everybody can relate to that, and everybody can use those lessons in their own homes. Who has never complained to a loved one or a kid, or hasn't had the patience to listen what the kid really wants? Maybe, So that's, I know it was a convoluted answer, but so a bit of everything.
No, thank you so much, Naul. That was very inspiring for us and for sure for our listeners. Thank you so much. Hello, dear Kardec Radio listeners. We are also here today with our friend Eduardo Guimarães, who also was one of the coordinators of the Nine Spiritist Family Retreat. Eduardo, please share with us about today's coordination.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Well, our inspiration came from, the 10th anniversary of Chico Xavier passing, and it's a kind of celebration because his work was so important for the Spiritist movement that we felt that celebrating not only his passing, but celebrating by studying one of his main works would be very good, not only as a way of showing gratitude to him for his efforts, but also because this is very enlightening. The teachings that No Solar brought to us is something that helps us to lead a better life, to take advantage of our reincarnation, and hoping for a faster development of our spiritual abilities or faculties.
Because that's what life is all about. It's about bettering ourselves. Thank you so much, Eduardo. And we always recommend people to go and read the book No Solar. We know that's on DVD now in English. Or actually, the book is out in English, and the DVD they can purchase with subtitles in English, which is wonderful. So we thank you so much, Eduardo.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
We are here today at the 9th Family Spiritist Retreat in Trumbull, Connecticut, and we have here with us Edward, and so he's from New York, and we would like to ask Edward, how do you feel about the program? What were you able to take, and is this your first time? Tell us a little bit about what you have learned and what your feelings about it, please.
I've been studying Spiritism about 15 years now in New York. My wife introduced me to Spiritism, and I've been studying. And one of the challenges that I think Spiritism and every religion, if you want to call it a religion, has is to make it personal, to make it meaningful in our life. It's not just an intellectual activity that we're engaged in. And events like this really fill you with all sorts of ideas on how to take what we learn and apply it in a practical and useful way to change ourselves, to change our life, to be more loving, to be more generous and kind. And all the things that we learn about in the books is one thing, but to practice it day to day is something else. And the techniques that were taught today and that I learned and I'll be able to take away with me were very powerful. And I thank you.
Thank you so much. And let me ask you, is this your first time in this event?
No, this I believe is my fifth time here.
Nice. So yeah, you're not a newcomer. So we thank you so much, Edward, for your time. And again, Leonardo from Trumbull, Connecticut, right here at the 9th Family Spiritist Retreat. Thank you. Hi, this is Leo Vieira with Kardec Radio. We're here in Trumbull, Connecticut at the 9th Family Spiritist Retreat. And in this nice sunshine day, we are here with John, and we would like to ask John a little bit about what he feels about this whole program. He's gonna, we would like to hear from you. What city you're from, how you got to know of this place, the main highlights of it, and perhaps even the group that you're, learning from it here at the 9th Spiritist Family Retreat.
Well, Leonardo, I knew that this would be a wonderful occasion because of the families and the people that I know would come here, and it has turned out that way more so than I could expect. Everything, the food has been wonderful. It's a lot of love in that food, and also I had great insight in the exercise we did, and I do mean that. I'm 64 years old, and I had great insight from my partner in this exercise, Arnaldo, about patience and the anger about impatience and the anger that's behind this. And after all this time in my life, I say, it made the day for me. And it's only 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And the whole scene, the wonderfulness of this whole event makes the day, just like the weather, wonderful. I could go on and on, but I think I probably should close and just say I'm glad I'm here.
Awesome, and that's a great conclusion there. As we can hear, the children around. It's a great atmosphere from the food, from what we're learning, and we thank you, John, for this lovely opportunity, and we hope you enjoy the rest of the day as well. Thank you. Thank you. Leonardo again from Kardec Radio. Thank you.
Hello, dear Kardec Radio listeners. We are here today at the 9th Spiritist Family Retreat, and we have one of today's participants, our friend Margaret. Margaret, share with us today about where you come from here in Connecticut and about today's program.
It's in Bethel, in Connecticut, and today's my first day coming here. I was introduced to the event verbally, and through awareness, I thought that would be an exciting way to learn more about what this event is all about.
And how did you like the morning's events with your group at the Ministry of Regeneration?
Well, first of all, it was in English, so I thought that was exciting. And the group itself, the discussion was awesome because it allowed people to express their vices and their virtues, and also to open up, because when one starts talking, another realized that, wait a second, I have that same vice too. So let's all come together and be one merry person.
Thank you so much, Margaret, for sharing that with us. And we thank you so much for here at Kardec Radio. Thank you.
Hi, this is Leonardo Vieira with the Kardec Radio. And we're here at the 9th Family Spiritist Retreat with Rogerio and Christiane. And we would like to ask them what's your experience? How many times you have been here? Just give a highlight. What your feelings about this nice event that we're here today?
Well, it's our first time. And the experience is very great. It's wonderful. We met with so many interesting people, had so much fun. It's hard to describe the environment. It's something that I really tell people, recommend it for everyone. It's nice.
The energy is amazing. Beautiful.
Yeah. And we learned from them that they also have their own kids, and they're also grandparents. And I think this is a good moment as well for us to share how important this, not only this moment is in our lives, but also in their kids and grandchildren as well. So please tell us all about.
It's the opportunity for us to learn every day, and to communicate to them, to try to participate them and show them all this kind of experience, and try to keep it down on the right path.
It's very nice to see kids around. It's nice to see them so young and already having this opportunity to be here, and we hope to bring our grandkids.
Definitely next time.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Rosario. Thank you so much, Christiane, and Leo again from Trumbull, Connecticut. Leonardo Vieira from Kardec Radio at the 9th Family Spiritist Retreat here in Trumbull, Connecticut. And today we have here Shayla, and we learned that this is her first time here at this event, and we would like to hear from her. We would like to hear a little bit what her main highlight for this first part of the day at the 9th Spiritist Retreat here with us. Shayla, what do you think about this place? What do you think about the environment? Tell us a little bit, how do you feel here?
I feel very happy that I could accomplish to come, because the park is amazing, beautiful. The organization was very well done. The exercise that we get together in groups to do, very helpful, very educational. And the energy around is great. The park is beautiful, and I'm very happy to be here because I almost couldn't make it. And I'm feeling very happy, and I'm planning to come next year and the following years if it happens again.
We thank you so much for your input. And again, Leo from Kardec Radio right here from Trumbull, Connecticut. Thank you.
Dear listener, we hope you have enjoyed this far. We have 2 more segments to go before our final prayer at the end of the show. Now listen to Spiritism in Your Life with Dr. Magalhães and Got It Home with Naur Fonseca and Gabi Ferreira. In a few minutes, we'll be back with you for our prayerful moment before the end of the show today.
Dear Kardec Radio listener, welcome to the segment Spiritism in Your Life. Today, I invite you for a reflection. Did you ever stop for a minute to think about the importance of your family in your life, in your success, in your progress? And when I mention family, I want you to especially think on those directly close to you, like your parents, spouses, and children. Let's think on this on the next 5 minutes. Why the family ties are so important in our lives? Why do I have the parents I have? Why do I have the kids I have? Dave Wood is a high school counselor with a great experience working with young people and their families. He observed that parents are the child's first and most influential teachers. About 87% of a child's waking hours, from birth to 18-year-old, are under the influence of the home. As a result of their position in the home and participation in the children's development, parents actually are key contributors to the learning process. Several studies have found that the benefits the kids can get from active parents' involvement in their education in a healthy family environment include fewer discipline problems, increased confidence, greater belief in their ability to succeed, high self-esteem, positive attitudes toward school or particular subjects, higher expectation for the future, better social functioning, better student-teacher relationship, lower risk of violence. Also, parents can get a lot of benefits from this good relationship as well, such as increased personal respect and closer relationship with their children, improved attitudes toward education, better relationship with child's peers, and positive relationship with other parents as well. From this quick summary of the up-to-date research, dear listener, you can see some of the benefits of an active and healthy family environment. If you go deeply in these aspects, from the point of view taught by our Master Jesus,
you will see that the family ties represent even more to an incarnated spirit. It is actually an essential part in the journey of spirit evolution. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 22, item 3, it says that God has willed for individuals to be united not only through the ties of the flesh, but also through those of the soul, so that the mutual affection of the spouses is extended to their children, and that there should be two instead of one to love them, care for them, and enable them to progress. Also, in the Spirit's book, question 774, the Spirits commented that for humans there is something beyond physical needs. There is the need to progress. Social ties are necessary for progress, and family ties are summed up in social ties. Hence, family ties are a natural law. God has thus willed that humans learn to love one another as brothers and sisters. And it goes even further if you go to the question 775, where it is asked, what would be the result for society if family ties were relaxed? The Spirit's answer, a magnification of selfishness. Therefore, dear listeners, the bonds of love generated by family ties are essential steps in our journey of evolution. From these, we can understand how important is the teachings from Jesus. Honor your father and your mother. You can see, dear listeners, that filial devotion, as well as parents' care and love, is not more than an opportunity to practice the general law of charity and love for one's neighbor. As for one cannot love one's neighbor without loving one's father and mother, or without loving your children. And this explains how important are the family ties created in every life experience, and also tell us that the best we can do to help ourselves in this journey is to live happy and with love in our family, regardless the problems and difficulties it might have. Therefore, we do have a precious chance to restart now in order to create a new end, and this change should start in our family. In order to finalize our segment today, I want to read a chapter from the book Our Daily Bread, brought to us by Emmanuel through the medium Chico Xavier.
In the family. The struggle in the family is a fundamental problem in the redemption of human beings on earth. How can we be the benefactors to 100 or 1,000 people if we have not, as yet, learned to serve 5 or 10 individuals? This is a logical question, which extends to all sincere disciples of Christianity. A good speaker and a bad servant are two titles that cannot be mixed. The Apostle recommends the exercise of observing compassion in the center of all domestic activities. He does not allude to the compassion that weeps without courage when faced with afflictive enigmas, but rather the one that recognizes the neuralgic zones of the home and strives to eliminate them, mindful of the divine decisions at the propitious time. We know numerous brothers who feel spiritually lonely among those who have entered in their personal family circle through family blood ties, thereby falling into lamentable discouragement. It is crucial, however, to examine these transitory physical bonds, cognizant that there are no causal unions in existence on earth in a family household. Meanwhile, there is a preponderance of renovating and regenerating trials prevailing there. Therefore, let no one fail to take advantage of the sacred field of opportunity to be of service, even though you feel oppressed or overwhelmed by the incomprehension. It will constitute a grave error to overlook the infinite possibilities for illuminating service. It is impossible to try to help the entire world when we fail to be useful in a small home, the one in which the will of the Father situated us on a temporary basis. Prior to making a great personal projection into collective service, let the student learn to cooperate in behalf of his family members of today, convinced that such an effort represents an essential achievement.
So, dear listeners, think on that and start to do good in your family. This is the first step for your progress and for your inner transformation. And God bless us all in this pathway of evolution.
Good morning, dear Kardec Radio listeners. I am Naur Fonseca.
And I am Gabi Ferreira. Welcome to one more program with God at Home. Imagine that we can travel 2,000 years back to the day that Jesus was teaching the Beatitudes.
And seeing the multitudes, he went up on the mountain. Then he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth.
Now imagine that in the same evening we go with Jesus and the disciples to Simon Peter's house. The disciples were marveled and at the same time puzzled by the novelty of those teachings. In particular, says Spirit Neo Lucio in the book Jesus in the Home, chapter 17, the Beatitudes about humbleness and meekness have made them feel uneasy.
As we know, the people of the Jews were waiting for a Messiah that would free them from the oppression of other nations and lead them to triumph on earth. How could they reconcile this expectation with humbleness and meekness of heart?
Judas was the first to break the silence. Lord, why did you say that the humble will conquer the earth? Will cowardly hearts receive this blessing?
Peter joined the discussion by saying, If an evildoer was to visit me home, shouldn't I remind him about mutual respect? Should I give in to him without any sort of fraternal reprimand?
Jesus smiled and spoke kindly. Of course, you're all mistaken. I didn't praise laziness, which hides behind the mask of humility, nor cowardliness, which gives the appearance of prudence in order to better accommodate itself to human conveniences. Actually, I was praising the courtesy we all owe one another.
Blessed are the mild-mannered, who are able to use their constructive energy with a gesture of kindness and a word of understanding.
Blessed are the children of balance and kindness, who learn how to deny evil without insulting ignorant neighbors.
Blessed are those who repeat the same lesson 1,000 times over without boasting about it, so that their neighbor might feel the influence of their action.
Blessed are those who know how to deal with the rich and the poor, the wise and the ignorant, the good and evil, with the spirit of service and understanding, giving to each one according to their merits and needs, while leaving traces of improvement, spiritual growth, well-being, and contentment wherever they go.
As we can see from these teachings, the meek and the humble are not lazy or indifferent. Jesus gave very clear examples of how meek and humble people must act.
We need to interpret the Gospels as lessons for the soul. The Beatitudes are a collection of instructions to the immortal spirit.
We may have the wrong impression from looking at the world that the stronger and the oppressor have the upper hand. But when we look into the past, we need to recognize the progress that we have already made towards a more just and equalitarian society.
Jesus was teaching to the future generations when he said that, in truth, the meek will inherit the spiritual domain of the earth. Because all those who welcome their neighbor within the guidelines of love and respect are owners of the heart that are perfected in the world.
Dear listener, right now we invite you to our prayerful moment. We have so much to be grateful for and to praise the Father in heaven. Dear God, we thank you for life, for this reincarnation, for the teachings of Spiritism and our great collaborators. We thank you for the team of Kardec Radio, for everybody in both realms of life who have been helping us throughout this year. As in a few days we celebrate 1 year of work in greater enlightenment of our own selves and the sharing of this light with many. We ask that you bless always all the people on the earth, in the universe, not because we don't think you do, but we want to partake in that, in the blessings you share with us, because we know you planned on each one of us being useful and co-creating new life and hope with you. May this weekend be of joy. May all the days of our lives be a new opportunity to discover ourselves, balance each other out, ridding ourselves from fear, being courageous always, hopeful and joyful. With all of your blessings, may your love and light be felt throughout our planet Earth. Dear listener, we invite you now to stay with us, because on July 4th at 12 p.m., a whole show about the anniversary of Kardec Radio. There is so much going to happen. Just await the update of the website and you're going to get to know the good news we're going to share with you in a few days. If you want to participate that day, all you have to do is to call on that very day at 4th July, 12 p.m., from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 858-769-4705, or send your questions, comments, requests to Kardec at kardecradio.com or kardecradio@gmail.com and or kardecradio.com, and then you go to the very contact session and submit your request, question, comment. We're going to read it out if you want us to do so here in the show in a few. Enjoy your time wherever you are on the planet Earth, and know that you're never alone and there's much to celebrate in life.
Thank you for listening to Kardec Radio, broadcasting live every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Email us and share your comments at www.kardecradio.com. Until next time, we wish you many blessings.